Hi everyone, I'm Nat and I'm doing a book review. What I plan to talk about is Roald Dahl's Lust. There are quite a number of compilations of short stories that have been done for Roald Dahl stories, and you can see them around in Page and a lot of other stores. So I want to talk about Lust because I feel like I read Madness previously, and Madness was like crazy, but it was okay crazy. It was a type of crazy that you can accept. But Lust is out there attacking people. So there are 10 short stories here, and a few of them like really bother me so much. Like for example, Georgie Porgy, where it's a story about this man who is um, somewhat devout to God, but at the same time he has like animal instincts, and yet he's blaming it on women, and it's something that slowly um, disturbs you, and then in the end you're like horribly disturbed by it. And this theme is just followed throughout the whole book. It's full of really disturbing stories that start off very simple and like light, and you imagine it's going to be something disturbing at the end, but you're still innocent and naive, and you're like, oh, maybe this story's gonna be okay. Because they start off with Madame Rosette, and that story is like, okay, it's not that scary or anything. And then they start with Neck, and Neck is this beautifully written short story which just starts with such a peculiar way, you know. It starts just by describing this one person, and then slowly moving into what's so scary about this person, and it ends with someone else doing a crazier thing than the initial person that was described. So it's like, Roald Dahl, where are you going with this? So these stories are really disturbing. But something that I really want to talk about is that because I've been reading the comments that people have left about these stories, and some of them have talked about how Roald Dahl writes the females to be cutouts or typical women, and men to be amazing men. But I think it depends on how you read these stories, because if you read these stories with the type of attention to it, that you understand that Roald Dahl is actually describing these men as being horrible. Not all men in this book, and not all men in the whole wide world, but some of the men in this book are so horrible. They're so arrogant and selfish and so annoying, and of course lustful, and they are but because some of these stories are written in first person, they describe themselves to be such nice people. They describe themselves to be gentlemen, and yet they are horrible people. They are honestly really horrible people. And of course, when they are in the first person voice, they will describe these women as typical, as boring, as non-dynamic. And I think that's what Roald Dahl wants to put forward. He wants people to realize that some men are very condescending. They see women as their items. And I don't think this is Roald Dahl being sexist towards women. I see this more as Roald Dahl trying to open people's eyes without really saying men are horrible. He's just saying, you know what, this is what goes on in the mind of a man. And because there are really horrible things happening, like for example, these two men plotting to have sex with each other's wives, and it's horrible. It's a horrible idea when you think about it. But the way that the way that the first person views it, it's as if it's something exciting. And of course, if you're a reader and you are reading these words, you feel utterly disgusted. But at the same time, when you think about it, of course, it's from this mindset of this guy who's disgusting. So you can't really blame Roald Dahl for his characters, and that's what I really like about this book, is that the characters have a very strong voice, and that he doesn't put things too directly and overtly. Rather, you have to read between the lines. So definitely pick up this book, read it, and let's cry together at how horrible some of these people are.